What's going on, Lions fans? Welcome to the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel. My name is Miko, and this is your go-to place for all things Lions related. That includes news, updates, analysis, and so much more. Today, we are going to be talking about the recent additions that the Lions made to their defensive line and what type of impact we can expect that to have on the defense going into 2025. So before we get into that, though, if this is your first time ever checking out the POD YouTube channel, I highly recommend you hit that subscribe button as well as hit that notification bell. That's going to help you out a ton when it comes down to being notified when we upload new content, but also it helps you be notified when we decide to live stream over here on YouTube as well. So with that out the way, let's talk about some of the news that is broken today regarding the Detroit Lions defense. Now, the first bit of news that we're going to talk about didn't actually break today. It actually broke late last night with the Lions signing Roy Lopez from the Arizona Cardinals. He is a nose tackle and he signed a 1-year deal for, I believe it was about $4.65 million in free agency. So this is a pretty nice signing for the Lions in terms of when you are talking about, first and foremost, looking at the depth that they were basically in desperate need of at the defensive tackle spot, but also for a short-term starter that the Lions are basically acquiring, because Roy Lopez is someone that has been in the league since 2021, and he has played in at least 14 games or more throughout his career. In fact, going back to last season, he started in all 16 games. You go back to 2022, he started in 14 games, and in 2021, he started 15 out of 16 games. So this is a guy that is very adept at playing those starter quality, snaps, which is really important when you factor in that Alim McNeill is still probably going to be recovering from that ACL tear that he suffered last season. And if he is going to be out for some time, you're going to need a quality starter that you can plug in the middle next to DJ Reader, next to, Aiden Hutchinson and possibly Marcus Davenport or whoever else they decide to get at the defensive end spot and still get some good production out of it. And that's exactly what you're getting out of a guy like Roy Lopez, who, like I said, has those starter quality, traits to him. Last year, in 2024, 18 solo tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 18 total pressure. So a guy that really went out there and did it all for the Cardinals, both in the run game and in the pass game, in terms of being a true cog in the middle. So he's someone that I think is definitely going to be a hurdle and definitely a test for someone like Broderick Martin, who is still trying to fight his way first and foremost onto the active roster. But I mean, even going into training camp this year, Broderick Martin might have to fight for a spot, on the final roster in the first place. So having a guy like Roy Lopez allows you to not necessarily have to put so much faith into like whether or not Broderick Martin is going to take that leap that you're expecting him to. He can definitely be a true test and a true, form of competition because he's going to play the same type of role that Broderick Martin would play. Again, you just have someone that's a little more established, and with the money that they're paying him, Roy Lopez is going to Roy Lopez is going to play a lot. You should expect him to be active in a lot of games, and you should expect him to play heavy snaps. Like I said, at least in the beginning of the season, if Alim is not quite healthy, and at least you shouldn't necessarily expect a drop off in production. So this is a signing, like I said, that came last night. It's not a signing that I expect a lot of people to be jumping up and down about, but when you look at some of the tape and some of the highlights that are being put out there about Roy Lopez, you can see what made him appealing to the Lions. He has a quick first step. He's able to take on double teams. He gets in the backfield. Again, as a nose tackle, that's big, right? Because typically you're just expecting, a nose tackle to just eat up space, take on double teams, and be a cog in the middle when it comes down to the run game. But if that player is also able to blow by centers and guards and be able to really force the quarterback to get the ball in their hands quickly, that's something that is a true asset. And when you think about the fact that the Lions already have that in DJ Reader, and DJ Reader does that at a fairly high clip as well, once Alim gets back, and now you can kind of put Roy Lopez in more of a reserve role as more of a rotational guy, like you now have a nice 1-2 punch that even when DJ Reader comes off the field, if Roy Lopez is coming in, you're not getting a break in that sense. So I love this signing for the Lions, like I said, and the first as like a short-term starter solution, but also just overall depth that the Lions really needed after all the injuries they sustained on the defensive line last year. Now, the other signing that definitely got me really excited that broke today is the fact that the Lions re-signed Levi Onwuzurike to a 1-year, $5.5 million deal. This is one of the things that I was waiting for once free agency kicked off. If you guys have saw our video where Morgan and I talked about, defensive linemen that we thought the Lions should re-sign, Levi was someone that we talked about fairly heavily, and mainly because we thought he had really started to take the necessary strides that the Lions needed to see in terms of being healthy, but not just being healthy and playing, but being productive when he was on the field. And like we always say, like, stats don't tell the whole story, but Levi still found ways of impacting the game on a really high level when you look at some of his stats. First and foremost, played in 16 games this season, started 10 of them, was able to go out there and generate 22 pressures last season. And if you look back at, pre-FF, for example, it's going to say that he generated 45 pressures. So depending on which site you're using, it still paints the picture that we're trying to talk about here, which is that he was getting into the backfield and causing chaos when he had the opportunities to. And that was his highest total since he was drafted into the NFL. So again, a guy that was starting to finally put it all together in terms of health and production. He played about 61% of the snaps last year. So again, high volume of snaps. Really, like I said, while the stat sheet isn't going to jump out at you, he only had 1.5 sacks last year, 22 tackles, or I'm sorry, 28 tackles. So again, nothing crazy. But when you go back, specifically watch those first couple weeks of the season when Aiden was healthy and Aleem was healthy, like, you see Levi really being able to help push the pocket in a lot of those situations, and him and Aiden, kind of forming a tandem that could actually, start to cave the pocket in. And Aiden was able to have a lot of success early on. I'm not saying that's all because of Levi, but it definitely helps when you have someone else that's able to generate pressure at the clip that he was. So being able to get a player of that caliber back on a 1-year deal for only $5.5 million is a huge win for the Lions. I was of the opinion that Levi was going to command anywhere between $8 to $10 million a year once he hit the open market. And the fact that the Lions were able to keep him in-house for another season is a huge win for him. And they can continue to develop him. They can continue to, help him reach the potential that they saw in him when they drafted him back in 2021. Back when Brad Holmes wanted to trade up for him. And so I think what they saw in 2024 is a good indicator of the player that he can be. And by getting him on a 1-year deal, it's a prove it deal for him, right? He gets to coming back to the Lions and he gets to, be alongside, Aiden, eventually Aleem when he's healthy. They, again, getting Roy Lopez, DJ Reader, and hopefully just an overall improved defense, and see, like, hey, we saw what you did last year. Can you take your game up to another level? And if he's able to do that, he can cash in big, whether that's with the Lions or not. Levi at least has the opportunity to make himself a lot of money in 2025 by continuing to show the growth, by continuing to show that he can be durable. And that's going to help immensely in terms of, like, his confidence and what he's able to accomplish at the defensive and what he's able to accomplish at the NFL level. So this is a move that I'm a huge fan of. I think it definitely helps raise the floor of this defense. It's not a splashy name. It's not the Bosa. It's not Joey Bosa. It's not Von Miller. It's not DeMarcus Lawrence. I get it. And I know that there's people out there that are like, oh, they just once again prioritized another internal guy. Yes, but Levi was one of the internal guys that I felt that they needed to prioritize. When you look at, again, his improvement, the fact that he was productive in terms of generating pressures last year, and his versatility as a defensive lineman. There weren't a lot of defensive linemen in this free agency class that you were going to get that could play 3-tech and 5-tech. And that's something that Levi brings to you, in the sense that, again, you're going to be able to play Roy Lopez a good amount of starter level snaps, but you can also throw Levi in there to be the starting 3-tech if that's what you want, starting opposite of DJ Reader. If you want to have a more traditional 3-tech and then have DJ Reader, you can go with Levi. You can kick Levi out to big edge as well on certain downs. If you want to go with a 5-mid down and you decide to have Levi, DJ Reader, a healthy Aleem McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson, and Marcus Davenport, like, that's a nice pass rushing unit once this defense gets back to being healthy. So again, it's not the sexiest signing, but I do think it's much like with Roy Lopez. It's a necessary signing to help improve the overall, or at least again, raise the floor of what this defense can be. And you still have the opportunity to go into the draft this year and sign, a young pass rusher, whether it's in the first round, whether it's in the second round. They finally have a third round compensatory pick. So you can go out there and sign or go out there and draft an edge rusher in the third round if you so decide. Looking at what the Lions have and what they prioritized in free agency so far, it at least lets you know that, listen, they were not necessarily open to paying that big money for some of these pass rushers. And I can't be mad at it when you look at the money that some of these guys got. I would have loved for the Lions to sign Chase Young, but I wouldn't have wanted to sign him at the price tag that he got signed at, right? Joey Bosa is probably the one that some people look at and like, man, for $12.5 million, that would have been nice. But you also got to factor in, if you're gonna have concerns about Levi's health, how concerned should you be about a guy like Joey Bosa, who has struggled to stay healthy for most of his career as well? Granted, he's been more productive, but he has his concerns as well. And so I think for what the Lions were able to pay, you're able to get a guy that, again, if he hits big for you, then it's awesome. If he continues to ascend upwardly like he did in 2024, you're in a really, really good place. But it also still affords you that luxury to go into the draft, find a young guy that can probably play a similar position, right? If you can go into the draft and come away with a guy of the ilk of Derek Harmon out of Oregon, like, that's a win, right? There's so many players in this draft class that you could add on the defensive line that I refuse to believe that the Lions are done improving that unit right now. So with that said, that's at least how I'm feeling about the signing of Roy Lopez and Levi Onwuzurike. I'm curious to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. Are you excited? Do you think the Lions improved? Or maybe you're on the other end of the spectrum. Maybe you're not as high on these signings, and maybe you think the Lions haven't improved nearly as much as some people think as well. Let me know in the comment section below. But with all that said, if you guys are looking for any more additional Lions content, or if you're looking to stay plugged in on any more free agency news, I highly suggest you go check out the prideofdetroit.com website. There's going to be news posted over there all day throughout the rest of free agency. So definitely stay locked in at the website. And if you want to stay locked into the videos that we're uploading over here on YouTube, like I said at the beginning of the video, all you got to do is hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and you'll be notified of every new video we upload, as well as every time we go live over here on YouTube. With that said, I'm Miko. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.